Hello and welcome to the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Omaha. I'm Brian David Marshall. I am proud to be joined by Pro Tour Hall of Famer Ben Stark. And Ben, we are already underway here with Pascal Menard putting himself to 17 and attacking with a Goblin Guide.
Perfect turn one for him. He's playing the fast deck with some burn. Scott Lipp playing the more combo-ish deck, certainly more powerful. So, I mean, Pascal needs to come out hard and fast and try and kill Scott before he can through the Breach and Emrakul or set up his Primeval Titans and his Scape Shifts and Valakutes.
Yeah, if you have not seen Scott Lipp's deck this weekend, while it was on the camera, it spent a lot of time on the King of the Hill seat. We saw the turbo in turbo mode quite often. Pretty spectacular. And there you see the Valakut, one of his big cards. But he really almost, what does he need to do here? Anger the Gods on turn 3.
He needs to anger on turn 3, or if he just ramps next turn, then he can Obstinate Ballast on turn 3. He's got a few of those in the main.
Oh, those are in the main.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to do something to slow down Pascal, because generally Scott's going to combo off around turn 4 or 5 with a ramp spell into a Through the Breach or a Primeval Titan, and that's not going to be fast enough against Pascal's fast start with Pascal on the play. So, I mean, if Scott can do something to slow him down, like a turn 3 anger or Obstinate Ballast, I like his chances. If not, he's probably going to get ran over.
Right, and here you see Monastery Swiftspear, and then a Serum Vision, so he's going to be attacking for 4 this turn. Maybe. He could be attacking for more if he finds a Gitaxian Probe. Could even be it could be 5.
It looks like he does have a Gitaxian Probe in his hand, too.
These guys have seen each other's deck lists. He knows he's not under any kind of immediate pressure from Scott. He might just want to press the advantage here and know if there's an Anger of the Gods waiting or...
Yeah, I mean, it's really useful information, and it's a free point of damage because you don't care about dealing yourself 2, because your opponent's basically trying to beat you in one fail swoop with Scape Shift, Primeval Titan, Through the Breach Emrakul, so you're not really concerned about, okay, I take 2 here, I take 2 there. So I think Pascal will probe, see the hand, deal maximum damage. Well, he doesn't probe yet. I guess a reason could be to wait a turn. It's going to deal the same amount of damage later, so maybe you see if your opponent draws an Anger this turn or not.
Right.
On the other hand...
And he has another Monastery Swiftspear in hand, too.
Oh, well, that's a good reason to make. Because I was going to say, on the other hand, your opponent could end up blocking the Swiftspear with Tribelder or something like that. So you kind of want to take the free damage when you can get it. But if you have a second Swiftspear, that's a great reason to wait, because then it's an extra point of damage because you're pumping 2 Swiftspears and not just 1.
Right. Here you see a Farseek from Lipp, who's fallen to 14 and could take 6, 8, possibly 11 damage next turn, depending on what cards are coming from Pascal Menard.
Yeah, I mean,
Pascal has 2 spells he can cast after casting the Monastery Swiftspear, so he can attack for 8 just with 2 Swiftspears, a Goblin Guide, a Thought Scour, and a Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah, if he draws a Lightning Bolt, Scott may be dead.
Yes.
You're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 damage, I think. I don't actually think he has a Bolt, but he's still got cards.
But he's got a Thought Scour that he can
Right,
cast.
And he's got cards to draw off this Probe and this Thought Scour, so let's see what he finds.
Okay, Probe, what are you holding, Scott Lipp? Show him a land, a Courser, a Through the Breach, 2 Sakura Tribelders, and another Farseek. So really nothing.
Yeah, that's a good hand for Pascal to see. He doesn't have Anger, he doesn't have Obstinate Ballast. He can't combo off this turn. It would certainly be at least 1 more turn. I'm not sure that Courser or a couple of Tribelders are going to be enough to live.
Sunday Super Series player.
Draws a card. He's got Serum Visions and Thought Scour here. So those 2 Monastery Swiftspears right now are 3 power each. Here comes Serum Visions. They are 4 power each. He's attacking for 10.
Yeah, and it's not easy to deal the final 4 if Scott had an Anger here. If he played an Obstinate Ballast and went to 8, I mean, we know that Pascal has a Vapor Snag now, so that probably wouldn't work. But in theory, it could work.
Right.
Or could have worked. But, with Scott not holding anything, I'm pretty sure if he doesn't find Anger of the Gods and only Anger of the Gods off the top, he's going to die.
Puts the cards down and says, take 10.
10's a lot.
It's turn 3.
We saw Shahar kill someone on turn 3 a few rounds ago.
There's Escape Shift. That's not the card that's going to do it.
You know, it's not, but this game, well, now it is over because with 2 Tribe Elders, the Goblin Guide only dealing 2, he wouldn't necessarily have been dead, but the Vapor Snag and the Goblin Guide ensure the victory, and that's why Pascal has just turned his hand face up here so that Scott doesn't really have to think. And it is very clear that Scott is dead right now. Only Anger of the Gods would keep him alive, and he doesn't have that.
You can play Courser, play a land, go to 5, but then the Courser gets bounced, he goes back to 4, and he's dead.
Yeah, he's just way dead. It's not even that close, because even if he didn't have that Goblin Guide, the Vapor Snag bouncing a Tribe Elder, he sacks it in response, but then he still can only block one of the 3 oncoming creatures, and he still takes 4. Right. Basically, no matter what, here, Scott is dead.
Yeah, Pascal shows you the power of the Goblin Guide here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that that's a hand that the other Blue-Red Delver decks, a matchup maybe that the other Blue-Red Delver decks are going to give Scott probably 2 more turns.
Yeah, if those Goblin Guides are young Pyromancers, that's a game that Scott might very well win.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting development here from Pascal Menard, these Goblin Guides. So now, oh, look at that. Look. We've got a Merfolk sighting. Oh, very brief Merfolk sighting. Zach Riorda gets in, sees a full play set of Siege Rhinos, but the Merfolk take game 1 over Jonathan Patan. You see Pascal Menard on your right, Scott Lipp on the left. He's down a game, but he really was the tournament leader most of this event. He was the last undefeated player standing.
Well, I mean, this is a good matchup for him, I believe. I mean, at least Blue-Red Delver, I believe, is a good matchup for him.
Right.
Pascal's hyper-aggressive version with Goblin Guides, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, might actually be a turn faster.
Yeah. I mean, granted, Scott was on the draw that game, and he didn't draw either Obstinate Ballast or Anger of the Gods, his 2 cards that slow down a fast stack. So I'm not sure that this matchup favors Pascal. I just think Pascal is a better shot than maybe a normal Blue-Red Delver.
Yeah, I agree. What does Scott Lipp have to bring in after sideboarding here that is notable?
Scott Lipp, I think he has more of those same cards.
There's another Anger of the Gods.
Right, and
another Obstinate Ballast.
Exactly, he has more of those same cards, and he has an Engineered Explosives too. So I think that's what he'll bring in. I don't think he'll bring in Boil or Combust. Those are for, you know, different, slower blue decks, even though they both do target blue creatures and islands. I think he wants the 1 Obstinate Ballast, the 1 Engineered Explosives, and the 1 Anger of the Gods. And he'll probably take out some of his slower, less effective cards. Maybe the Scape Shifts. I'm not 100% sure what he'll take out. Maybe he'll just shave some of his weaker cards in the matchup.
I gotta tell you, I haven't seen him cast Escape Shift yet. Maybe he just take the Escape Shifts out. I've seen him Summoning Trap, I've seen him Through the Breach, I've seen him just hard cast a Primeval Titan.
I think Scape Shift is kind of plan D for this deck. Scape Shift's a pretty good plan, but I think he's more concerned with, firstly, can I Chalice for 1 against them?
Right.
Then I have the mid-game of Anger and Obstinate Ballast and Courser, all of which are pretty excellent in the mid-game. They don't win the game, but they buy you a lot of time against these aggro decks. And then his, you know, late-game combos of Through the Breach for Primeval Titan or for Emrakul. Also just hard-casting Primeval Titans off ramp spells. And Summoning Trapping if they're countered, or just casting a Summoning Trap for Emrakul or Primeval Titan. I think that basically Scape Shift is at the bottom of the list of things his deck is looking to do.
Okay, so Pascal Menard now, in his sideboard, I see Spell Pierce. Is that a must card? You really want to Spell Pierce
that Anger of the Gods, the Through the Breach.
Through the Breach is a little scary if that's going to resolve.
I think he'll definitely bring it in, but I don't think it's a highly effective card because a lot of Scott's cards are creatures. I mean, when he plays a Tribe Elder and you can't Spell Pierce it, and then he starts ramping, and then he plays an Obstinate Ballast or a hard cast a Primeval Titan, Spell Pierce could find itself ineffective.
He's not bringing in Tidebinder Mages, is he?
I don't think so, no. Just to tap an Obstinate Ballast or maybe a Titan after it already came into play. You got to figure a Valakut deck could probably just end up dealing 3 to that at some point.
Right. So Vendilion Click, probably not.
No, I think he'd probably bring in Vendilion Click. This deck relies on these heavy hitters. I think if you can look at their hand on turn 3 or 4, you can put through the breach on the bottom, Primeval Titan on the bottom before they can cast it. You know, even in Anger of the Gods, you don't have to overcommit that hard, and then during their draw step, you Vendilion Click them. I could definitely see Vendilion Click coming in.
Pascal Menard's up a game.
Disdainful Stroke looks pretty good.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think we'll see Disdainful Stroke, Vendilion Click, some Spell Pierces, maybe Negate. I don't love Negate for the same reason I don't love Spell Pierce, but you know, you'll probably bring it in. It's still a counter. It still lets you interact with this faster deck.
Well, Blood Moon does nothing here.
Blood Moon shuts off the Titan Valakut plan. I don't think I would bring that in, but maybe. I mean, it stops a lot of his deck. It forces him to have Emrakul.
It puts him on a different plan than he's on normally. Okay.
And he only plays 3 Emrakul, so you know you could bring in the Blood Moons too. Pascal has a lot of options basically, and they're all pretty close. And he does have a lot of cards to bring out because all of this burn kind of stinks in a matchup like this.
Right.
So if I was Pascal, I'd be taking out Lightning Bolt, Pillar, Fork Bolt.
I see Fork Bolts right there in his sideboard, so he definitely took those out.
Yeah, so that gives him 8 cards that he definitely wants to bring out. So that pretty much lets you get everything in right there. The 1 Blood Moon, the 1 Negate, the 1 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Vendilion Click, 3 Spell Pierces, 7 cards, and all 8 of those are pretty bad. Maybe he also brings in, well, Torpor Orb stops Primeval Titan, right?
Yeah.
He could do that. He could just leave in 1 Lightning Bolt or something. But yeah, he could bring in those 8. I could definitely see Torpor Orb too. I don't think I would bring in Tidebender Mage. I think that's probably what I would do, is board in 3 Spell Pierce, 1 Vendilion Click, 1 Torpor Orb, 1 Blood Moon, 1 Negate, 1 Disdainful Stroke, and take out the 8 burn spells from the main.
Yeah, I mean, Pascal is, Scott's sort of happily shuffling away there. He's like, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Actually, it's possible Vapor Snag is worse than Lightning Bolt. I mean, it does have the upside of being able to bounce your own guys, but let's say they just didn't draw an Obstinate Baloth. You don't want to end up not being able to play spells when you have your Monastery Swift Spears out because you're holding Vapor Snags with nothing to target. Whereas if you bolt them there, that does 4 damage. So I'm not sure on that. Vapor Snag might be worse than Bolt. That's pretty close, I think. For Scott, I think it's a lot more clear. I don't think Scott's going to sideboard very much here. Just the 1 Baloth, the 1 Anger, and the 1 Engineered Explosives. And he's going to shave some of his slower, weaker combo cards.
Meanwhile, while those guys are still sideboarding, our back table match has already gone through their sideboards and onto game 2. We see a Curd Ape. Good old-fashioned stomping ground Curd Ape. Magic the way it was intended to be played, the way we played it in 1995.
That's Zoo.
There's a Tidebender Mage. That's not fair.
Yeah, I mean, that deck was named Zoo because it plays animals, right?
Right, yeah.
Curd Ape, Savannah Lions, Wild Mikado.
By keeping with the 1995 theme, Lightning Bolt takes down the Tidebinder. There's a Silver Gill Adept. Revealing Silver Gill Adept, draw a card, and that's an Ether Vial. Jonathan Baton, this deck was just lurking just outside of our field of vision all day. He's keeping a blue up. To Vapor Snag the Curd Ape.
Well, you see that
Rorida's stuck on 1 land.
Right. This might have been a really good game if Rorida had land, but stuck on 1, he's not going to be able to put up much of a fight. These Silver Gill Adepts, they just keep providing that card advantage, and when you're up mana and cards, I mean, you're going to run away with the game pretty quickly.
And he decides to kill the Silver Gill Adept there. Oh no. Oh no, it's a Spreading Seas.
Oh, come on. Come on, that's just not even right.
I don't know if he's going to do it.
Why is he so in the tank? Your opponent has 1 land. If you Spreading Seas it, that's awesome.
There's an Aether Vial.
I mean, for you, not for them. But
he passes a turn.
That's weird.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe I'm seeing it, but
I see a Spell Pierce. Is that the same card we're looking at? I don't know for sure, but I can't imagine he had a Spreading Seas and he didn't cast it. That would be really weird.
It's quite possible that I am...
I think I see is that a Remand? No, that's a Phantasmal Image.
Phantasmal Image. That may be
yeah,
what I
Silver Gill Adept, Phantasmal Image. I'm pretty sure that's a Spell Piercer 2 in the back. I think it's highly unlikely that there's a season there.
No. Okay. He's so excited, Zach. He's like, I get to attack with my Curd Ape and do damage.
Yeah, I'm not sure about these last couple turns. I mean, we see Jonathan just waiting on that vial, not really casting anything. I'm not sure that he had great options. I mean, he could have attacked with the Mutavault, not into the Curd Ape. So maybe the turn before, though, I think the board might have been clear. If he did that, he cast Aether Volley, he'd be tapped out. I think he left up mana, so maybe he had a Spell Pierce or something. Yeah, he does have Spell Pierce. Yeah. But he's playing this game very carefully, which is good when your opponent's stuck on one, but there's also not that much they can do when they're stuck on one.
Puts a Silver Gill Adept into play with the Aether Vial. Don't know which promo card that is, but I assume it's one of the Lords. That should be a Mirror Regery. It could be. Pretty sure it's a Mirror Regery. It's a dialect of hieroglyphic that I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I know people like them, but I'm not.
Regery,
I know people like them, but I'm not a huge fan of the promos for that reason. I think it's hard to recognize them
We're ready to go back to our main match. So Delver's Secrets is resolved for Pascal Menard on turn 1, and on turn 2 we see a Combust, which is coming out of the sideboard for Scott Lipp. Here comes Monastery Swiftspear, land, and Thought Scour. There's the disdainful stroke you were talking about. Did come in. Gets in for 2 with the Monastery Swiftspear. No green for Scott Lipp. Third land for Menard. Gets a basic, goes to 16. And with extra anger floating around, Pascal has to be pretty careful about overcommitting to the board.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. I mean, you need to kill them quickly, but you don't want to overcommit. At this exact point, Pascal knows that he doesn't have green. I don't think Scott would be sandbagging all his green sources. Right. So, I mean, you do want to play around anger.
Thought Scour whizzes by the Blood Moon. Did come in.
Striking the right balance here between... Oh, we forgot Smash to Smithereens during the sideboard talk as well. Clearly that's coming in, as Chalice is one of the best cards in the matchup. Right. Just an oversight by me there. Those two were definite includes.
Okay, 4th land for Scott, who's going to, get to Valakut the hard way.
Yeah, unfortunate for Scott here. If he had a green, he would have been able to ramp on the play.
He does have Through the Breach.
Yeah, but we know that's probably not going to resolve.
Well, especially with a Spell Pierce on top of the deck.
Yeah, I think Pascal may already have a Spell Pierce.
He does. Yeah. And again, you'll see Pascal Menard has this thing where he's plays cards in his hand upside down and right side up. The cards that he plays in his hand upside down are cards that his opponent seed. And so he just does that as a notation to himself. He's like, this is what I've shown my opponent.
It's kind of smart.
It's really smart. I like it a lot. It's something that I was surprised I haven't seen more of. A lot of times you'll see players write that down. I know Paulo, Vito Damarosa, is pretty good about writing down not only the cards that he's shown his opponent, that he's seen from his opponent, but the cards he's shown his opponent. But it's a nice little shorthand to have to do, and you don't have to share that information with your opponent this way.
Paulo's also kind of smart.
Yeah. So there is a Chalice for 1. And is this something? Wow. I mean, you kind of have to. Do you double Spell Pierce this?
You might as well, or you can't cast the Spell Pierce.
Okay,
so he's debating which one to use. I guess you use the Leak. It's pretty close between double Spell Pierce or Leak. I mean, the leak has the potential to counter Primeval Titans and whatnot, but with your opponent not having any green mana, I guess the only things you're really worried about are Anger of the Gods and Through the Breach. So you hold on to those 2 Spell Pierces instead of the 1 mana leak.
Pascal goes on the attack, comes in for 4, drops Scott to 8. 2 possession game here for Pascal Menard.
Scott needs to draw Forest this turn, because as far as we know, Pascal's hand is only 2 Spell Pierces, and if Scott was to play a Forest and let's say Tribe Elder or Farseek, it wouldn't be impossible for him to bring a Primeval Titan online in time.
There's the Tidebinder Mage. It did come in.
If he doesn't draw a Forest this turn, I think this game is completely out of reach.
This deck's been extremely good to Scott Lipp throughout the tournament, but it's fallen a little short of the mark here.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck, and it's unfortunate because I don't think these games are too representative of how the games can go between these decks.
If you've had a chance to watch him sitting on the King of the Hill table throughout a lot of the strategy, you saw this deck is capable of some pretty grotesque things.
Yeah, and if he drew a Forest this game, he would have been in pretty good shape. If he had drawn Anger of the Gods or Obstinate Valve last game, he would have been in pretty decent shape.
Yep.
Just some unfortunate draws here for Scott Lipp.
So Pascal Menard says, what are you holding on to? Yeah.
So now that's 7 on the board. So I mean, what 1 card is Scott even going to be able to draw on his turn? I mean, he doesn't know that Pascal, maybe he does know Pascal even has the Spell Pierce for Anger.
He knows there's 1 Spell Pierce.
Which would stop Anger of the Gods, which is the only card I think could get Scott potentially in this game.
He actually could have Spell Pierced his own spell to get to 8 here.
Oh, wow, that would have been kind of risky. I don't know if there's anything that Scott could have had.
He could have paid.
Well, yeah, I meant if then Scott had a Combust or something like that, but yeah, I don't think there's anything Scott could conceivably do. Scott's not conceding because he could draw Anger of the Gods, but we all know Pascal even has a Spell Pierce, so.
And Scott extends the hand.
Pretty
Pascal
hopeless.
Menard wins 2 games to 0 pretty convincingly. You see him show the Escape Shift, he shows him the Disdainful Stroke, he shows him the Spell Pierces. And they just talk about how they sideboarded.
And this is really common for players after matches. But this match is over. Is there any shot we have any other matches? Do we have the...
Yeah, I think it looks like we're going to game 3 here on our matchup, Merfolk versus Zoo.
That one's over.
Oh, that one's over already. What do we have going on here, Rashad?
Do we have the third match still?
So that looks like Merfolk made 1. Let's see, we're trying to figure out which matches are still...
Well, it looked like the Merfolk was certainly winning that game because his opponent was stuck on 1 land.
Right. So that's over. This was Pascal Menard 1-2-0. Oh, so it looks like we're going to get a look at Stephen Barrios, who's playing the other... Stefan Barrios is playing the other Blue-Red Delver deck.
Okay.
In this top 8. A little bit more of the traditional deck.
Kind of snuck in a top 8 and 8th seed on tiebreakers.
Yeah, ahead of the burn deck that
Shahar Shenhar
played
finished
by
ninth
Shahar
with.
Shenhar, yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna take a look at Stefan Barrios' blue-red deck. So the Zoo deck's done. The Pascal Menard is moving on. This deck's done. There you go. So this is Amulet. I'm sorry. This is Obzon Pod. Eric Peters is the opponent. So here's the Obzon Pod list.
This is the match we started to talk about a little bit. Let's see if he's more of a value pod or more of a combo pod, how he stacks up against Blue-Red Delver.
I believe he is value pod.
I see the 3 Siege Rhino, 3 Voice of Resurgence, 3 Kitchen Finks, 2 Abrupt Decay, 3 Wall of Roots. Yeah, this looks like a pretty nice list against Delver. Also 2 Restoration Angels. So you're talking about Dark Blast, Shriek Maw, double Restoration Angel. I mean, this is a great list to play against the Blue-Red Delver deck. I like Eric Peters' chances.
Yeah. Do we know what game they're going into here? Rashad, can you check for us?
They're going to get 2.
They're going to game 2. Who won game 1? I guess if it took that long for them to get through game 1, I'm going to guess, yeah, it went to Eric Peters.
Certainly Pod would be a favorite the longer the game goes, but that's the beauty of this blue-red Delver deck. They have late game.
Right.
I mean, with Treasure Cruise and Snapcaster Mage, I mean, it's one of those decks where, you know, sure, the sooner they win, the better for them. They're an aggro deck in this matchup. Pod is more the control or the mid-range. But I could see blue-red Delver winning a long game. I could see them winning the game on turn 10. They can draw cards. They can flash things back. They can overcome a substantial board deficit with their powerful card drawing.
Yeah, the problem is there's enough. The Obzon Pod deck is capable of gaining enough life, catching thinking, siege rhinoing, that they can outrace even the Treasure Cruise, fueling their burn spells.
Yeah, if they've got a Pod going, I mean, it's really tough, no matter how many cards you draw. If you can keep them off their creatures or you can keep them off Pod, maybe you have a chance at, even if the game goes late.
Looks like Barrios is going to be starting on 6 cards here. So, 6 cards to work with. And he likes them. He's going to start at 17. Looks like, oh no. He's going to start at 19. Nice refreshing change here.
Well, if you've already got a red source, you don't want to shock yourself,
right.
You know, carelessly. Of course, if he had no red source, he would definitely shock himself.
And there we see Delver Secrets. Of course, Delver Secrets being one of those two-sided cards, a lot of players will choose to use those checklist cards if they don't have the blackest and opacest of sleeves.
Yeah. It's actually a cool mechanic. It might be a little bit annoying physically, but the idea of a card changing and changing back, sometimes not in Delver's case, but in the werewolves and whatnot, I thought it was a lot of fun to play with. Just, you know, a little better suited to the online game where you don't have to deal with the flipping them back and forth. Yeah.
So there you see Insectile Aberration. It does flip. There's a Vapor Snag on top of his deck that triggers the Delver of Secrets transformation, and it becomes the Insectile Aberration. Of course, harkening back to The Fly. You know, the story of The Fly.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with that story.
You've never seen the movie The Fly with Jeff Goldblum?
Probably once 15 years ago, but
a guy who turns into a bug.
Okay.
And he's really gross.
And that's what a Delver of Secrets is? A guy who turns into a bug?
Yes. Turns into an Insectile Aberration. Noble Hierarch from Eric Peters, while we refresh Ben Stark's Netflix queue. Forkbolt, the Noble Hierarch, and you. The universal hand signal for 1-1.
1-1.
And gets in for 3.
And a turn 1 Delver is scary. If Eric has an Abrupt Decay and can answer that, I mean, he's in a fine position to then go on and deploy his more powerful late game. But if that thing hits for 3 a couple more times, it's going to be pretty easy to burn him out.
I mean, even if it's just Lightning Bolt with Rebound, you know, even if it just hits you for 3 twice, you know, that's huge. You'd play that spell.
Well, not only that, they still have to answer it. So even if they answer it after that, you've traded off 1 card for 1 card and gotten that 6 damage for free.
Right. It looks like it's going to attack Peters down to 13. It looks like he's trying to decide whether he wants to play the Young Pyromancer or cast Serum Visions and try to find a land. Decides in Stimp, says, I'm going to play the Pyromancer, I'll get my land next turn.
Yeah, and that's a close call. You want to get good value out of your Pyromancer, but you know your opponent has only 1 land because he missed his land drop last turn, so you really want to kill that birds. I'm not sure which play was correct, but that's definitely an interesting decision point. I mean, with the Serum Visions, I'm pretty inclined, I think, to just kill the birds. If your opponent doesn't draw a land, they may not even have a 3rd 1-drop. And if they do draw a land, you certainly want them on 2, not 3. But you do spew a lot of the value of Young Pyromancer if you take that line.
Peters is, of course, on 13 here. He's gotten hit by that Insectile Aberration twice. Here's Chalice of the Void on 1.
I didn't see that coming.
And now you look at what that does. That has just
every card
his hand.
Every card in his hand costs 1.
Right.
He can still cast them and make 1/1s.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
So he can still cash those spells in for elemental tokens because Chalice of the Void counters the spell.
Right. I believe so. But yeah.
So you could just see Stephen Barrios here fire off a Thought Scour, have it get countered, fire off a Lightning Bolt, have it get countered, and have two creatures, to have two additional creatures to attack with.
Yeah, but if all Stefan Barrios does for the rest of this game is make 1/1s, that's going to be a tough game to win now that Pod has its lands.
Yeah, but if he doesn't have an answer to that Chalice, what else is he going to do?
No, I mean, that's the right play for him. He doesn't have any other choices. I'm just saying this could get rough for Stefan Barrios. I mean, this board right now looks like, he's an overwhelming favorite with the life.
He has a hand of blanks right there.
They're all 1-mana cards, every card in his hand.
He just quadruple mulliganed under the Chalice of the Void.
I think we'll see a Siege Rhino here from Eric Peters. Give him a little life, maybe negate that one attack from the Delver. His other option is to Shriekmaw the Delver, but he has to evoke it, so he'll lose it. And then if he has something nice to play also, so he can use all 4 mana, that could be the correct play. I know he has the Siege Rhino, I saw it. Okay, I see a Voice. So he's deciding between Siege Rhino or Voice and Shriekmaw. And this is pretty close. Oh, well, Red Cap, I didn't even see that one hiding in the back of his hand.
Yeah.
And this isn't close, that's just a clear best play then, because he gets to take out the Delver and make a blocker for the Young Pyromancer.
Gosh.
So that's just the best play you could possibly have there. And he's not even worried about getting bolted out or Vapor Snagged out because he's got the Chalice for 1.
Chalice for 1 just looking insane here.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Do you feel like people just have to have a plan for Chalice for 1 game 2 regardless of what their opponent's playing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different games, but if you're on the draw against it, it's really bad for you. If you're on the play, maybe you dump out several of your 1-mana spells, then they take a turn off playing it. Maybe you can still finish them off. But
and here you see spells just getting countered, just being converted into
1/1s.
1/1s.
This is pretty ugly.
And it just draws another blind because there's Delver Secrets.
Yeah.
And he can't even cash that in for anything.
No. And even if after he makes 2 more 1/1s here, it's not like an Alpha is going to get Eric to exactly 3 and then he's going to win. Eric's got Siege Rhino, and Lightning Bolt will get countered anyway by Chalice of the Void.
So he just sends them in. Young Pyromancer, of course, can't attack.
No, this is a bad situation for Stefan Barrios. I mean, I think that if Eric had no hand, this would be a bad situation for Stefan Barrios. But we know that Eric's about to run Shriekmaw, Siege Rhino, all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, here's the Siege Rhino. Oh, by the way, he's got another Siege Rhino in his hand, too.
Yeah. I think Eric's going to make quick work of Stefan Barrios now.
So 1 blue-red Delver deck has advanced to the semifinals. 1 blue-red Delver deck looks like it's going to be...
Yeah, and he
go,
just
that's the
concedes.
hand. Wow. That was a compelling argument for Chalice of the Void there for me. And again, the only real 2-drops in his deck are the Young Pyromancers.
Yeah, no, that game was pretty much over. I don't know if he boarded in a Smash to Smithereens type card or not. Obviously, it can kill Pod, so if you see their list and they have Chalice and Pod, maybe you bring it in.
Right.
But, he didn't have the answer, whether it was in his library or not. And you can't win a game where all of your spells are countered and you just get a few 1/1s.
Well, look at this. This is very interesting. Our top 4 seeds all advanced here.
Maybe that's a little bit of a testament to the new rule where the higher seed gets to play first in the top 8.
Yeah.
Which I think was an excellent rule change. One of the best changes Wizards of the Coast has made over recent years, because you fight through 15 rounds of Swiss. And then sometimes you're the first seed, you're near undefeated, you have a great record, and then you lose in the quarters. And look, that's what the elimination matches are for, it happens. But a small significant advantage, like getting to be on the play, is great. I mean, I think you've earned that if you have the 1 seed after 15 rounds.
Right. We got a turbo match here. We're going to watch Stefan Speck playing against Andrew Ellenbogen. And this is Red Green Tron versus Speck is playing Amulet Bloom.
Okay, so we're going to get to see the 2 combo-ish decks. Tron's not really considered a combo deck, but it's more of a Goldfish type deck.
Right.
You're just trying to assemble your mana and cast your powerful spells.
You see a turn 2 Summer Bloom, just dump a bunch of lands into play for Speck.
Yeah, the combo for the Tron deck is basically Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Tower with big expensive spells. Whereas the Summer Bloom deck is a true combo deck in that you have Hive Mind and Pact, you have Primeval Titan and lands it works with, you have Amulet and the Karoo lands, you have all kinds of like combo-ish, super synergistic interactions.
There we see a Karn. Karn eats the Simic growth chamber. Seems like a pretty big deal here. Yeah, he's just gonna keep taking apart his hand or taking out his lands. Yeah. So Karn just going to work here. There's an Oblivion Stone. We've seen what he does with Oblivion Stone. He puts a fake counter on his Planeswalker. Steven should develop any kind of board whatsoever.
I mean, this deck can get going quick, but not out of nowhere. I can't really see without lands in play or anything.
So scrying, that should go get Eye of Ugin. And that means Emrakul, you know, what you call it, worm coil engines are just not far behind. Starts with a worm coil engine.
I know this is the top 8 of Grand Prix, but man, people have a lot of fight in them.
you just went down hard for that game. You're like on 2 lands. There's like a triple fate counter.
Your opponent is carning you every turn, searching out worm coil engines, and you have a land in play.
Like, what else you got? What else you got? So Ellenbogen takes that game. And this has been another deck that's been really, illuminating for me to watch. Just seeing how this deck comes together and how much redundancy it has in terms of finding the pieces between the Sylvan Scrying, between the Ancient Stirrings, between the Expedition maps.
Yeah.
It is not as challenging to assemble the Tron as it once was. Right? There was a time when the Tron was very much a little kid deck because you just didn't have that many pieces that let you find these lands.
Yeah, Tron is fairly consistent. The main vulnerability for Tron is not assembling Tron. It's that you have to assemble Tron and have big spells, and if they counter or Thoughtseize away your one big spell that you drew, you often don't do anything.
Right. There's an Amulet of Vigor, Summer Bloom, Hive Mind.
All right, to the third.
Back. Wow, that was a
incredible
quick game, even if we didn't have it sped up. So again, we're turboing through this just so we can show it to you. We're going to be moving on to the semifinals pretty quickly. All the matches are, all the matches in the quarters are concluded. I just want to live in a world where I can make people shuffle like that all the time.
It would be awesome. I mean, I know I can't complain about it because I shuffle a lot. But if you didn't have to shuffle, it would be great. I just like a random deck.
Then they moved.
Oh, and then they moved.
And then they played so fast that all the permanents disappeared.
And we know from looking at the thing that that Steven Speck with the Amulet Bloom deck advanced. So it's going to be Amulet Bloom versus Blue Red Delver and Abzan Pod versus Merfolk in the semifinals. We're going to be back in a few minutes to bring you those semifinals. We're going to switch around the seats and take a quick break, and we will be right back.